this video and at the same time do all the camera work and shit. It's just eating up so much of my fucking mind. Let me get back on track. Oops. Man, that sounded gay. How many times have you overthought a problem? See, you're supposed to take a course of action. You're supposed to go, left or right, up or down, this or that, it doesn't matter. And you overthink the problem. You overthink it and you grind on the issue and you don't make a decision, right? You just think it and think it and think it and think it, without making up your mind. And sometimes this procrastination can lead to real fuck-ups, right? The very fact that you don't make a decision sometimes is worse than making a bad decision, right? Because you're not making the decision because you're overthinking it. Now, what happens when you start to worry about a decision? You worry and you worry and you worry. You wonder if the decision is the smart decision or a bad decision. You've already made the decision. Now you're just waiting around for the effects of it. And while you're waiting around for the effects of it, you start to worry. You start to wake up in the middle of the night. You're thinking to yourself, well, I chose X. Was X the smart move or should I have chosen Y? You already made the decision, but now you're just grinding on it pointlessly. Pointlessly to the point that it's actually undercutting your quality of life. Because you're waking up in the middle of the night worrying about a problem, and do you have control over this problem? Yes, no? If the decision was made and you're waiting around to see the effects of the decision, then you no longer have control over the decision now, do you? You don't. Now what about regret? Ooh, regret. What is regret? Regret is when you keep on thinking about a decision, a course of action, about something that has already happened, and there is nothing you can do about it because it's in the past. It was a decision that was made. You're not going to be able to change it no matter how much you grind on the problem. You can grind on it for hours, for days, for years, for decades. And believe me, there are a lot of men who do grind over a problem for decades. They grind over the problem for decades. They regret it for decades, thinking and thinking and thinking about what they did, but they can't change it. It's in the past. All of these problems are the same problem. Overthinking, worry, regret, they are the same exact problem. The only difference is that the decision is at different points in time, but overthinking a problem, worrying about a problem, and then regretting it, it's all the exact same thing. It is your attention going over a decision relentlessly, but in a way that is not fruitful. Let me explain. What is overthinking? Overthinking is you have a decision ahead of you, a course of action that you're supposed to take, but you haven't taken it yet. When you're overthinking a problem, okay, what it is that, see, you're thinking to yourself of all the negative outcomes of that decision. See, suppose you decide to go to overthinking a problem is something that often happens to smart guys, smart men, people with a lot of IQ points. They overthink it because what happens is that, smart people can see all the angles. See, imagine you're playing chess, right? And this happens constantly. You have all of these options, and if you're a smart person, you can see a lot of the repercussions of each decision. But see, sometimes when you are too smart, you can see too many possible outcomes. And too many possible outcomes leads you to overthink and to question yourself and to undercut your possible decision. You think, well, maybe I should move a pawn, but then you say to yourself, well, maybe I should move the rook or maybe the bishop. And you wind up doing nothing. You wind up being paralyzed because you're overthinking the problem, because you can see the potential outcomes of each of those decisions. So you see what I mean? Now that's why overthinking is a problem of smart people, and it is something that if you're smart, you have to discipline yourself against. Because dumb people have it easy. They only see like one or two potential options. And so they see those one or two potential options and they just pick one of those two potential options, right? But if you're smart, you see half a dozen, 20, 100 potential options, and that all those options paralyze you. That's the problem. That's what's happening to you when you're overthinking the problem. Now, worrying a problem is quite different. When you're worrying a problem, the decision has already been made, and so you're thinking of the potential negative effects or events that might happen because of the decision that you made. Let's go back to the chess example. You made a chess move, right? And you are thinking to yourself, well, I moved, say, the pawn, and maybe my opponent will, capture that pawn or do this or do that or whatever. So you start to worry. You start to grind on the problems because you're thinking of all the possibilities that fate can throw at you and derail your decision. Make it so that you don't achieve what you want. That's what worry is. Now, what's regret? Regret is when a decision was made and the outcome was bad. And that outcome had maybe consequences that were anticipated or consequences that weren't anticipated. But whatever they were very negative. I mean, you never regret having picked the winning numbers of a lottery ticket, now do you? Of course not. See, regret is the most painful emotion. It's like looking back at things that you did, realizing the decisions you should have made, and knowing that at the time you had the information, you had the knowledge, you had the opportunity to make the right decision, and you didn't. And that's a horrible thing. There are some people who sort of like regret random things. Like they regret that they'd never been born rich, right? Or they regret that they weren't blessed with being good athletes or some nonsense like that. But see, that's not real regret. That's like, I wish I'd been born rich. I wish I'd been born athletic. But that's not real regret because you didn't have any possibility of changing your situation, right? It was just luck and circumstances beyond your control. But real regret, the regret that really wakes you up in the night, the regret that just gnaws at you for days, for months, for years, for decades. That's the regret of knowing that at the time you had all of the information and you could have made the right decision and you didn't, out of foolishness or pride or spite or stupidity, whatever the flaw in you. And that's the thing, it's usually a fatal flaw in your character. That fatal flaw in your character prevented you from making the right decision at the time, even though you could have. And then realizing that that wrong decision torpedoed everything. That's real regret. Overthinking, worry, regret, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's a lack of discipline with your attention. It's letting your attention, your brain power, go, sort of like run around at random, run around without any kind of direction, without any kind of discipline. One of the problems that we have in the West, it seems to me, insofar as our education system is concerned, is that we do not know how to handle smart kids. These smart kids grow up undisciplined in how to control their mind. I mean, think about it. Suppose, for example, that you are a Superman, that you are physically a Superman, and that, with a snap of your fingers, you can crush a car, right? Now, what would you want to do with such a person? You'd want to teach him to control his superpower, to control it and use it for good, to control it and not cause unintended damage, either to himself or to others, right? Yeah, but teaching a Superman to control his physical power, that's sort of easy, but teaching smart people, really smart kids, to control the massive power of their brains, that's something that the educational establishment has failed, because we sort of like pretend that everybody's the same, and we know that that's bullshit. We know that some of us are more equal than others. You know what I mean? And yeah, what happens is that very smart people are the ones who overthink a problem, overthink it to the point of paralysis. They're the people who worry about a problem. They worry and worry and worry and worry. Even though the issue has been decided, the decision has been taken, action has been carried out, there's nothing to do, but they worry. They worry because they don't know how to control their attention. And then later, if things turn out badly, if it turns out that it was the wrong decision, regret settles in, and regret can ruin a life. I've seen it. I've seen it up close. Men who took the wrong decision and it ruined their lives, and they kept on grinding about it. They grinded about it for decades, right? And instead of worrying about the here and now and moving on from this bad decision, they allowed their regret to envelop them and consume them and ultimately destroy them, quite frankly. This happens all the time. This happens all the time. And it's all about controlling your attention. It's all about absorbing that brain power. Because that's what it is. That enormous attention, that enormous brain power is being, spread out over things that you can't control. So what you have to do is, whenever you feel that you're overthinking a problem, whenever you feel that you're worrying about a problem, whenever you feel you are regretting a decision or an action that was made, what you have to do is turn your attention to something else immediately. The second you start to overthink a problem or worry about the problem or regret the decision made, you have to turn your attention to something that will suck up your attention completely. A hobby, or better yet, a book, or some activity that will be productive. There's nothing worse than sitting in a room thinking about something, thinking and grinding about it. What, you think I haven't done that? Of course I have. Lots of times. Lots of times I would sit in some room grinding about something, overthinking it, worrying about it, and then later regretting about it, right? But I have a great advantage. I have a great, advantage, ability, call it what you will, is that, see, I forget stuff. I move on, yeah? I forget stuff not in an Alzheimer's kind of way, but rather in a kind of oh shit, that happened, and I just sort of put it out of my mind. For a while, I'll grind on it quite a bit. I'll grind on it endlessly, right? I'll go on and on and on about some problem, overthinking it before I've made the decision or before a course of action has been taken, worrying about it once the decision has been made, once the course of action has been settled upon, regretting it after the decision, the course of action has run its course and it turned out not to have been the right decision. Yeah, sure. I have fallen into the trap of overthinking a problem and worrying about the problem and regretting the problem. But the thing is, see, I forget it. And how do I forget it? By getting interested in other things. By getting interested in other things and letting my attention be absorbed by this other thing. Letting my attention be completely captured by this new sensation, this new interest, this new hobby, this new book, this new whatever it is. I make sure that something captures my mind and captures my attention, and makes it so that I don't focus on something that I no longer can control. See, because that's the thing. And that's the thing that drives you crazy, drives me crazy, and drives everybody crazy. See, when you overthink a problem or worry about the problem or regret it, you are thinking about something without actually doing anything about it. And it starts to emphasize your powerlessness to the situation. And you got to avoid that. You got to avoid that shit like the plague, see? Because you don't want to get used to that feeling of powerlessness. Now in this video, as you can tell, I've been trying out like new techniques and a new way of doing my videos, right? I'm not sure if this video came out, properly. I feel that, I was thinking of too many things while I was doing it. Unlike those classic videos of mine where I'm just sitting there and I got like 5 cameras, right? Where I can focus on what I was talking about. Here I was like operating the camera and talking to you and trying to keep all my thoughts in order and all the rest of it. But see, like I said in the other video the other day, the whole point of doing these videos is to constantly be pushing myself, trying to do something better and cooler and just more interesting, And sometimes these experiments are great and sometimes they sort of like fail, okay? But this is something I can control. You see what I mean? Don't worry about that which you cannot control. The decisions that have been made, the things that you've already done, don't worry about them. Always be looking forward. Always be looking to the next challenge and the next challenge after that, okay? What has gone in the past is gone. And the future is a fairy tale. The future is fiction. The future doesn't exist. Worry about what you're doing right now. Worry whether what you are doing right this second is worthwhile. And let the rest of everything around you take care of itself. Okay? Okay.